Hi, this is Scott. I really appreciate our sponsors because they make the show possible. Today's show is sponsored by Telerik. Create compelling app experiences across any screen with the Telerik platform. Telerik's end-to-end platform uniquely combines industry-leading UI tools with cloud services to simplify the entire app development cycle. Telerik offers everything .NET developers need to build quality apps faster. Try it free at telerik.com/platform. That's telerik.com/platform.
From Hanselminutiae.com, it's Hansel Minutes, a weekly discussion with web developer and technologist Scott Hanselman. This is Lawrence Ryan announcing show number 463. In this episode of Hanselminutiae, Scott talks with Richard Campbell.
Hi, this is Scott Hanselman. This is another episode of Hansel Minutes, and this one is in fact live. Well, it's not live if you got this as a podcast, but if you're watching it on YouTube, it's live. And we've got Richard Campbell. How are you, sir?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
Lovely, lovely. Last time I talked to you, it was Hanselminutiae, number 14, as I recall, and I had just got my iPhone 6 Plus. And now, what is it now? 6 months later?
Yeah, something like that. And
something like that.
And we were happily anticipating the watch, right?
Yeah, actually, I heard that the Apple iWatch is going to have glucose sensor support out of the box. What I really think that means, in my opinion, this is my analysis, is that Dexcom, the people that made the continuous glucose meter that myself and many other type 1 diabetics use, basically made a deal with them. And they're going to hook up the Dexcom Share, which is kind of the commercial version of the open source project that I am involved with called Night Scout. And this is the thing that lets you take your blood sugar data and put it out onto the cloud. Since their product today works with an iPhone, it makes perfect sense for them to spend an hour spend an hour and a half and write the code to put it on a watch face. I don't have really high hopes for it, but it makes a nice press release. We'll see. Well,
and this instrumentation of the body thing, I mean, you've been doing it for years because it keeps you alive. But for everybody else, just, I've got my Fitbit and things. It's only going to get more interesting, right? I'm on the Kickstarter for a thing called Scandow, which is the like a tricorder.
I was just going to say, is that the universal tricorder?
Well, I don't know about universal, but it's a tricorder. It's a little handheld gizmo. You put it up to your head. It takes all kinds of readings. I'm on the FDA trifolder.
I hope that there's a tricorder, like a remote tricorder app that lets me get to all the sensors on my band. I've got my Microsoft band, and I know it's got a bunch of information that I can't see yet. I have a feeling like this is a thing where they threw a bunch of sensors into the hardware, and they just haven't given me access to all of them yet. So it'll be interesting to see.
This is my frustration with Microsoft research projects. Whether you look at the old Surface, now they call the Pixel Sense, and the Kinect, the Band, and presumably HoloLens. They build an amazing product. It comes with a set of apps, and nobody can program against it.
Yeah, well, I do know a guy over there, and he gave me a tour, and I talked to them, and I kind of made the comment that there's kind of a gap between like whenever the SDK comes out, which will probably have a high bar of things that you can do, and what's the tinkerer going to do? Right? What's the Pebble watch person? I just want to know the moisture of these plants that I'm trying to do, That's Internet of Things is my begonias.
Right.
Show me that on my band. Hopefully they will hear us and they will make us something like that.
Well, and I'm worried the gap's bigger than that. It's like you're either rocket scientists, C programmers, and you write drivers for fun, or you can't develop against this.
I think, though, not just Microsoft, but speaking in general, that everyone's got a cloud IDE now, And if I can write a little bit of JSON and do a JS fiddle and I could put that on my band, that would be cool.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah.
I just want access to it so I can do a mashup, right? It's an old term, but it's more prevalent now than ever before.
Indeed. There's I think it's called Cloud Pebble. Basically, the Pebble's a really low level, like, there's like Arduino and then like Pebble. But you can go and I think it's called Cloud Pebble, and you can basically, drag around and design your own watch face, and it will compile to C and give you the zip file and say, here you go. So it's a C code generator. And that's what I'd like to see for small devices. And I actually got a bunch of devices. Funny that we're talking about devices. I'll try to describe it for folks that are, of course, listening to this, but I got my Raspberry Pi 2.
Oh, wow,
yesterday.
You got one.
Yeah. I ordered it at 1:04 in the morning, because this is the thing. Everyone's like, a bunch of people were mad at me because I got this in the mail yesterday, or day before yesterday, and they said, I ordered my Raspberry Pi 2 on launch day. And I said, yes, but I ordered it English time, because it was announced 10 a.m. in England. So I ordered it 5 minutes after they announced it, and it showed up. And then I 3D printed a case around it.
Oh, nice.
Which is kind of cool. Yeah. It's kind of a cage type of a case, and it's pressure fit, which is quite nice. And let me just tell you, it is faster. Like, I don't think I'd make it my daily driver, but if I were, I don't know, in some resource constrained environment, if I were maybe overseas somewhere or and this is all I had, I put, notice the back here, I put on a USB keyboard, USB mouse, and I put in a tiny, tiny little $11 Wi-Fi adapter. And look at that.
Edimax?
Yep. Lovely little thing there. And the little Edimax is great. I actually bought a pile of them. I bought like 3.
Nice.
I could use this as a reasonable PC. You know what I mean? I don't think you could do Gmail on this thing.
Yeah,
so,
it's just a web surfer, Facebook, Twitter. Yeah. That's enough.
It's certainly not as good as like some of these $100 Intel PCs that they're selling, but for $35 and
it's hard to argue.
It's pretty amazing. I'm pretty happy with it. Oh, and then I got this. This is another thing. I got the Radio Shack is going out of business. Are they going out of business in Canada?
Oh yeah.
It's so sad.
I just saw. Who's the Daily Show guy who just spun off on his own show? John
Oliver.
Yeah, John Oliver's commercial for Radio Shack.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. You should check that out. Not safe for work, but definitely fun.
Not safe for work, no.
So they were going out of business, and they had 60, 70, 80% off stuff. So I went over there and bought a bunch of crap that I don't need, like this Arduino shield. Check this out.
Oh,
touchscreen,
nice.
Touchscreen shield, and I got a little paint program here for the kids. So we've got, something I would never have bought at $50, but totally bought at $12. Does it make sense? And then I got a little adapter here for my 9-volt. So
the question is it actually a good deal at $12? Or the fact that it was 50 is now 12 is why you buy it.
That's a 320 by 240. I could play Doom on this thing now. That's a touchscreen shield. You know what I mean? Don't disrespect my purchase, Richard Campbell.
Yeah, I love your Doom measurements. That's a great way to go.
If I can play Doom on it, it should be, you buy it. If there's a Kickstarter awesome. And I can play Doom on it, then I will make that purchase. So yes.
I'm always curious about the psychology of a decision making like that.
Yeah. Well, there's also the amount of money that I'm allowed to spend without my wife complaining.
Yeah. $12 is below the threshold and 50 is above.
There's a psychological barrier at $50. Yep. That's why I make sure all my purchases are $49.95.
There you go.
But when it comes to gadgets, you know what I mean? Another gadget my friend is loaning me right now is a software-controlled radio. Do you know about these things? You can basically snatch cell phone metadata out of the air.
Right.
You can look at UHF and VHF. Really, really cool. So I got that in the pile. And then I got my 3D printer over here. So I'm having all sorts of fun.
So which 3D printer did you go with?
I bought a PrinterBot Simple Metal. And, nice. I feel like this is a printer that doesn't get the respect. I got this magazine recently here, the Make magazine. Mm-hmm. This is one of those really, really nice $10 magazines that I would never spend $10 for.
Glossy paper, big, heavy.
Yeah.
You want to leave it on your coffee table.
I would, to show people that I'm a maker. Because that's how pretentious
that you spend $10 on magazines. Yeah.
But I would never do that because I got it at Radio Shack for like $3. So I'm looking through this thing and they have the 3D printer annual guide, what they call it, the shooter, the
shootouts.
Shootouts, right? And I'm looking through the thing here and I don't feel let me put it this way. I'm staring at it agog. I am gobsmacked. Number 1, Ultimaker, price as tested, $2,500 United States dollars.
Wow.
Okay. Next page. Taz 4, price as tested, $2,200 United States dollars.
Right.
PrinterBot Simple Metal, $599. Basically, the second highest score. I'm going through this page after page after page of $2,000 printers, a couple of $1,000 ones. The Simple Metal just crushed them, but it doesn't kind of get the respect. Like no one seems to like.
And it's 20% of the price.
It's nothing. It's like I went and gave a presentation at my kid's school about 3D printing, and they were like, "Wow, that's really expensive. I don't know I can justify that. And I said, does anyone here have a Wii? And they all raised their hands. And I say, do you have 4 or 5 games? And they all raised their hands. And I said, well, you just spent the money you could have bought a 3D printer for.
Right.
Like, I mean, I realize it's a tinkerer's game, but seriously, if you want one and you have an Xbox, make the choice. Simple Metal is really impressive. I'm actually going to have we have a big exciting thing going on with my podcast. This is the first time I'm mentioning this, by the way. This is an announcement. And a cooperative crossover with the Code Newbies podcast that I've been involved with. We're going to do March Makers Month, basically. March is for makers. And we're going to have a month long. I'll be doing all hardware and all makers. And Saran from Code Newbies will be doing the same thing. So you'll have 10 great podcasts or so, all about making. And I've got Brooke Dunn, the CEO of PrinterBot. Totally unrelated. Like, wow. I don't have a relationship with them. I just bought the thing. But he's coming on the show, and he's a really cool guy. He actually has a TV show now called All American Makers, and he's the maker behind PrinterBot. So I'm going to have him come on the show.
That's awesome.
It is exciting.
And it feels like 3D printers are emerging now. This is the dot matrix printer of its day, or the inkjet printer of its day.
If in the context of, if you remember the Epson FX80.
Yes.
For the two of us that are old enough to remember that, where you're like, does this printer that I'm buying support bold? And then it's, do you support more than one font? Well, we support 3 fonts, Ooh. And then you have to go into the back of the printer manual and figure out what the control code to enable bold is.
Right.
And then write that code in your like paperclip application or whatever you're using, WordStar, and tell it about it. That's the level where 3D printers are right now.
Pretty much. I mean, there's some interesting experiments going on. I've been looking at some of the resin printers where they're using lasers to harden resin, the carbon fiber banding printer where they're combining plastic and carbon fiber together. So you can, the best description I had is you're making wood where it's really strong in one axis, but not so strong in another. Like we're in an interesting phase now. That the core thing, the PLA ABS printers are, under $1,000, and the new materials are starting to come into play.
And they are extremely competent. I did a blog post recently at the behest of Brandon Potter, who works at a 3D printing shop, has a $20,000 printer.
Wow!
Printed out a coffee cup and then FedExed it to me, and then I printed out the same coffee cup. And basically the tests are you can't tell them apart.
Wow.
Yeah, you cannot tell them apart. $600 printer and a $20,000 printer. Now, this is a coffee cup and it's a stupid one-off anecdote. Certainly if we were doing like one of those, print an engine all in one piece and then dissolve, put solvent around it and dissolve it and make it run. There are things that I cannot print because I don't have dissolvable supports.
Yeah, it's a different materials.
It's a different material. But at the same time, though, man, I'm printing some really competent stuff. I'm very, very happy with my printer bot.
I've been putting together notes for an additive manufacturing show, a Geek Out episode for .NET Rocks. And one of the things that we got a chance to see was at SpaceX, there are parts of the Falcon 9 that are made with additive manufacturing. They use a laser sintering machine we held one of these parts. It looks like a solid piece of aluminum. Really light, and then you turn it at a certain angle and you can see right through it. It's a very fine mesh to make it really light, but still strong. Yeah. And so it's basically transparent in one direction.
Sintering is this kind of weird thing to make a mass of something by getting it super hot and maybe pushing on it a little bit, but not to the point where it's melted.
Right.
So you're assembling something from smaller pieces, but you haven't quite melted it.
Not fully molten, right? It's sort of in between.
Right.
The SpaceX facility, they have the friction stir welding, where you don't actually melt the metal because it's aluminum lithium, and if you melt it, it'll come apart.
Right. You just humiliate the metal.
You just warm it up enough that it gets cutty with itself.
So do you have these things? I know you have a lot of gadgets and stuff. Do you have any 3D printing equipment?
I have resisted owning a 3D printer because I would use it the least. I am a house full of crafty people, right? My wife's in the CAD business. Both my daughters make stuff all the time, and they don't want it. So I feel like it wouldn't get used enough. So I haven't pulled the trigger yet. I haven't found the machine that I'm like, no, I have to have that anyway.
Yeah, that is the fear. And that is why I went with what I thought was the cheapest and most sturdy printer I could find out there. Because if I didn't use it, like how shameful would it be?
Yeah. It's one thing to have a $500 thing sitting there you're not using versus a $5,000 thing you're sitting there not using.
Yeah, well, I could never justify something like that, but I am extremely happy with it. I would have to say though that even though it was $600, I probably printed about 6 different things to get it to work.
Right.
This is the thing I talked about in my blog post, that 3D printer people only print stuff that makes their 3D printer better.
Well, I'm impressed with the case you made for the Raspberry Pi 2. Like, there you made something. It was actually a solution.
Yeah, well, like another solution I gave on my Instagram is we got this Dyson portable vacuum, right?
Right.
And between the old original Dyson portable vacuum and the new one, there's some cost cutting, and it doesn't come with the cool bracket that you mount on the wall anymore. Someone at Dyson decided no cool bracket. So I printed my own. You know what I mean? Seriously, I'm telling you, and it snaps right in. It's freaking brilliant. So,
is it durable enough?
It has been used full time in the garage every single day. We eat dinner and then we vacuum up after the little boys every day. So yeah, I mean, it's been durable so far. I like to say,
hand, if it breaks, you make another.
You make another one, exactly. I like to say to my wife that the worst case scenario with the 3D printers that we'll make it up in costs by printing out all of the little backs for remote controls that hold the battery door.
Right.
So yeah.
That alone
will make up the $500. Exactly.
Yeah. That or duct tape.
Surprising amount of tape used in 3D printing. The blue tape? Seriously.
Yeah.
It's blue printer's tape, like painter's tape.
Yeah. Painter's tape.
That's the thing that you put on the bed. And that's actually costing me more than anything so far. I've gone through 2 rolls of that crap.
Yeah, it's funny all the little details of actually using the thing. And it really does remind me of the inkjet printers in the beginning. And
Absolutely.
All of the little fussing you had to do to keep it healthy. And
Yeah. Well, you still have to do some of that fussing. You know, I've got a $40 Office Depot Epson printer, and it still wants the heads aligned somewhere. But they've got it down to a nice, clean scenario where you print out a pattern and you say, number 3 looks good, number 4 looks good. And then you tell it, and now you're aligned. I spent probably 3 days fighting with this printer, getting it aligned. And that
now it's a 3-dimensional alignment. It's a little trickier.
It was a lot of holding 2 wrenches together and eyeballing stuff. It was extremely frustrating, I would have to say.
I love it.
It's absolutely.
Fun stuff.
So what else is going on in the gadget world and in the online world of hardware?
So I got new monitors. I do a hardware refresh in the fall, winter time when I have a few days. So to replace the machines. It had been 3 years. So workstations for 2011 get updated, that kind of thing. And it was finally time to change out some of the monitors. And I have some of the very first LCDs ever made, ViewSonics, like old school. And the wife was using a pair of 19-inch 1280 by 1024 4x3s. And so got her up to some 1920s, and I replaced my secondary screen, the one that I'm on right now, with a new Dell 2560 by 1440.
So is that a 4K screen?
No, the 4K is 3840 by 2160. Yeesh. So this is still, it's just below what used to be the DVI-D, the 2560 by 1600. This is the lower res of that. But the quality of the screen has ruined me. It's so nice to look at. So the next machine over to the left here is my great triple rig. I built it in 2006 around the 30-inch panel by Apple, which is a 2560 by 1600. And then I hung 2 20-inch 1600 by 1200s in portrait mode on each side. So 4960 by 1600. And I came to appreciate that the 1600 high is really important, because it's the lines of code you can read. And it's big. And it's been great for 8 years. And then I got this screen. And now every time I turn back to it, it's just not that bright.
It's the clarity? Clear. It's the whiteness of the whites?
Not as crisp, just not as nice.
Have you tried to color correct them all?
I have, but admittedly, it is 8 years old. This monitor doesn't owe me anything. You know, it's got a lot of miles on it.
See, this is the thing. The fact that it's 8 years old and it's still a good monitor, though, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And so you don't want to throw it out. I don't know what to do with it. It's beautiful. It's got my microphone arm mounted to it. Like, it's part of this room, but it's a little stale. And so I was thinking, I'll just replace the panels because I can buy 2560 by 1600 displays. They're a lot cheaper now, and they're IPS and all the new LCD features that make it awesome. But I can't get 1600 by 1200 panels anymore. They're 4x3, and they're out of stock. They'll never be again.
Hey, this is Scott. You know I like a good community edition. The best things in life are free, and the community license from our sponsor, Syncfusion, will give individual and small business developers access to more than 650 components across 12 platforms, and that includes WPF and Windows Forms, JavaScript, Xamarin, LightSwitch. You can check it all out at syncfusion.com/Hanselman to claim your free license. This arcade that I've got back here, this emulator back here, I pulled out the giant 23-inch CRT and put in the largest, I think it's a 22-inch Dell 4x3 square LCD, and it's the last one I could find.
Yeah,
and
they're gone.
One day, I'm going to have to replace that, and the only thing I can think of is putting in a 16x9 and just covering up the left and the right and basically lying, because
that's what you're going to have to do.
There's nothing you can do about it. This monitor right here to my left is a 4x3 because, and it's a 9-year-old monitor. But this is the other thing about hardware in general. Like, someone was asking me when I was going to build the next great computer, because every 3 or 4 years I build one. Why do I need to? I am running a very competent machine from 2007. I added a new video card and I added an SSD.
Yep.
But
that's
what
all
else
you need.
do I
SSDs breathe new life into machines. It's transformative when you get an SSD in.
Absolutely. What else am I going to possibly do, right?
So I've been looking for the next monitor, something worthy 8 years later to replace the giant rig. Have you seen this LG, the 34-inch, 21x9 curved display?
I was at Costco recently and I saw the curved display and I just don't get it. Why do I need a curved display?
Because it's so wide that out on the edges, if it was flat, it's sort of going away from you.
They always show all these happy people sitting around watching the Super Bowl, and they're so happy that they have a curved display. And I don't know. I don't have that many people over at a time.
I'm not looking at it for a TV. I'm looking at it for a monitor. So, I mean, the whole point is it's one screen and it's 3840 by 1440.
And how large? This is a 30-inch monitor? Because I'm looking at a 30 right now.
It's a 34. So it's a little bit bigger. It's very wide.
I do kind of have that hexagon thing going here. It's like
that's what I have on my triple too, right? Okay. So I think as a TV, it's questionable. But as a monitor,
I don't know.
So
I would have to see it. The whole curved display thing. One of my most popular Instagram, I don't know if it's called a tweet, Instagram pictures ever, it's almost like 400 likes now, was a simple picture of Damien Edwards' setup, his computer setup. And what he's got is, the standard 3-monitor thing, kind of the 20-odd. And then he's got a 27-inch 1080p touchscreen angled below his front monitor, as if it's almost like a keyboard of its own.
It's very Star Trek, that low-angle screen.
He loves it.
I've heard great things.
Everyone does this whole, turn left and right, look at your 3 monitors. But by having a monitor in between his main screen and his keyboard that is also touch, he thinks it's the greatest thing ever. And it's like a $600, it's a $600 monitor. It's got a crappy screen, but it gives you touch on the desktop. And it's totally revolutionized, he says, how he works.
Interesting. Who's set up like that is the Microsoft Studios. I did that open source series a few months ago, and all of the
Virtual Academy?
The Virtual Academy stuff. Yeah. Where behind that desk, you have one of these low-angle screens. I have my notes and stuff on it, which was great, and it's not right in front of you, but it's in the right place that you could sort of maintain it, but still be out of frame.
That is the exact monitor type that he has, the one that you saw at Microsoft. And if you people who are listening, if you go up and search for ASP.NET Jumpstart or MVA, the Microsoft Virtual Academy, they got lots of free classes and stuff, and you can see us using those flat screen touch screens. The thing is though, I've got a nice setup, and unless it breaks, I can't justify it, you know?
You don't want to touch it.
I was watching TV with the wife a couple of days ago, and I was looking at the screen, and I was looking for something to be wrong. You know what I mean? I was like, I think the blacks aren't quite black right there. Or, you know, there might be a broken pixel. Time to buy a new TV. And my wife was like, no, I think this TV is just fine. It's a Sharp Aquos that we bought 8.5 years ago.
Nice.
And it won't die. I can't get rid of this high definition television. Isn't that the worst?
I can't find a 4K screen I want. Yet.
Oh, I can't find a 4K screen that I want to do anything with. Like, what am I going to watch? Like, you can only get minimal Netflix because people think that 4K is the new 3D. It's the new thing that will make us all rush and buy new TVs.
Yeah.
But they're doing it in such a way that they're making weird deals with the Netflixes of the world.
Yeah.
Everyone's filming in 4K, but they're not giving us the content in 4K. So if I want to watch House of Cards, I got to get a Sharp with the embedded Netflix client.
And like, all right, then I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Speaking of embedded clients in your television, have you heard about this incident with Samsung recently?
No, what happened?
So in the past week, folks watching movies off their local hard drives, the first stories came from people watching Plex.
Mm-hmm.
They had ads for Pepsi off their hard drives.
Okay, hang on a second. They injected an ad before, like a pre-roll, when I played my local content.
Half hour into the movie stops.
No.
Yeah. And it wasn't Plex. It showed up on some other apps as well. And they eventually figured it out. It was the Samsung TV.
So wait a second. You're saying that the DNLA server stops the stream and injects an ad?
Yeah.
Wow. That is not
because you got all these smart TVs with all these players, and they're plugged into the network, and so they're getting updates. Apparently, it was a mistake. Somebody ran a test app, and it got out in the wild.
I'm looking here at Reddit right now, and people are freaking out. It says Plex stops halfway through and plays a Pepsi ad.
Right.
Turns out you can turn it off by going into the Smart Hub privacy policy. And you can turn it. So you go to your Samsung remote, you go to the Samsung Smart Hub, terms and policy, Yahoo privacy policy. And when you turn it off, then the ads go away. That is offensive.
That is a mistake. That is a mistake on Samsung's part. And I bet it was an accident. It's literally,
somebody, when you see an accident like this, you're like, no, somebody wrote that, you know?
Yeah, somebody wrote that, but they didn't mean to put it out in the wild.
Not cool. I don't like that kind of stuff. And this is the other thing. I don't want a smart TV. I want a big monitor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've got an Amazon Fire Stick and I've got an Xbox One. I'm pretty much handled. I've got more crap that can play Netflix than I have screens to play Netflix on.
Yes.
You know what I mean? What
I play
can't play
Netflix from my Roku 3. I do not need my TV plugged into the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't need all of these things to play Netflix. And I sure in the heck don't want to replace. And a smart hub, no, I don't want a smart TV. I want a dumb TV.
Yeah. Because a TV's never going to be a hub. It's not a hub. It's an endpoint.
Exactly. It is an endpoint, and I want to throw stuff to it, which is another nightmare. So check this out. I had some friends over, and they said, we just got back from, where'd she get back? Got back from Tanzania. And she wants to show her pictures of Tanzania. So let's solve this problem for me, Richard Campbell.
This should be trivial.
Friend comes in, has an iPhone. I will tell you ahead of time, I didn't know this at the time, but an iPhone 4.
Uh-oh.
She's in your home. You need to get what's on her iPhone onto your screen. How do you solve that problem?
See, I'm not an iPhone place.
No, but just think about it in a more generic sense, right? So do you put her on your network or do you have a guest network? So there's problem number one, right? Or do you try to use Bluetooth or some non-Wi-Fi technology?
I mean, you really want the sort of Miracast technology. You want her to be able to attach directly to the screen and just start showing stuff.
Right. So ideally, yeah, exactly. Miracast and an ad hoc network. I didn't have that. So I also didn't have a guest network because I don't have guests that often, but I put her on my network. So, questionable decision. Who knows? She's on my network. So now she's on my network. I don't have an Apple TV though. She could have used AirPlay, but apparently though, this is an iPhone 4, which doesn't support AirPlay mirroring. So even if I did have that, I couldn't do that. I have a Raspberry Pi that supports AirPlay, but again, iPhone 4. I have a Chromecast, but the Chromecast app doesn't support doing this. Right? So you're sitting there like, and then also remember that these are non-technical guests.
Right.
So what's the half-life on a non-technical guest putting up with the techie to get the pictures on the screen?
One drink.
Yeah, it's basically one drink. So about 4 minutes into it, and my wife starts giving me the side eye, and she's like, "You're not as technical as you think you are, Hanselman. Isn't that the word?" You know what I mean? And it's like, how organized do you think how technical do you think I am? Like, well, no, I'm very technical. Like people know me for being technical. I just don't know exactly what I'm doing right now. But you're trying to explain this to like, well, no one could do this. Like, no one is technical enough to have done this themselves.
Well, unless you've already done it. Yeah, I've actually described myself as I'm a race car mechanic. I don't have an oil filter for your old Chevy. Sorry. Yeah.
So what I ended up doing was I downloaded an application called PhotoCast.
Okay.
On the fly. And of course, I'm having to ask my guest to type in
to install an app on their phone.
Yeah, just give me your password for your iTunes. So got PhotoCast and threw it up there. But this was just a perfect example of between Bluetooth and NFC and Wi-Fi and guest networks. This is like an ecosystem problem. I just want to take that and throw it up there. The problem is everybody thinks they have that solved. Microsoft's got Miracast.
Yeah.
Can't get Miracast to work reliably with my Fire TV. Amazon's got Miracast, but it's Amazon flavored Miracast.
Of course.
iPhone's got AirPlay. It's a miracle I got this thing to work, and it was a third-party app that pulled it off and pushed it into my. And then you know what I ended up doing when it finally became unreliable? I just copied the files up on Plex. This is the thing, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. In the end, the phone's just a big USB key, and you dumped it.
Someone said that they were excited that we were doing the show, but they said, "Can you do it again?" I didn't know. Are you live or are you recorded? So I said, "Well, we are it's recorded in that we are recording right now, but we are still live." Yeah. And then they were like, "Oh, I figured it was recorded because otherwise this live stream looks too nice." No, it really.
I'm sorry the technology is working so well.
Yes, it's working so well that I'm on vacation somewhere in Cabo, and this is recorded. Nope, this is live. Of course, it's not live if you know it's not live. The thing is with these kind of things, you can actually go and back up in time, right, with the YouTube Live, and you can look at this beforehand. It's good stuff. I think that the live thing works very well. I must say you're very crisp right now. You're very HD.
Yeah, the camera's great. The pair of 100 megabit connections helps. So yeah.
And then of course we're recording with really nice. I've got my Zoom H4, and what do you have for your mic over there?
This is an AT 2020, and actually do a Traveler 3, but it's all pro audio gear. There's no reason to own this, and unless you make several hundred podcasts a year.
Yeah, but the Zoom that I bought, my H4 or my H6 rather here.
That is a fantastic device.
It is really. I need to do a podcast about this. This is just about the best little machine I've ever had. Oh, well, Richard Campbell,
sir.
You know what I just remembered? Check this out. What? Hang on a second. Entertain the people while I step away for a moment.
Imagine you're a host of someone else's show.
Okay, there we go. I'm back. Look at this, my friend. This is called an iRig.
Well, what is that? Is that a preamp?
Look at that. It's a preamp that does XLR to your iPhone. And to your iPhone. Oh. It's powered by a 9-volt battery.
And so it will do phantom power?
It does phantom power for up to 8 hours. I sound like Casey Kasem, rest his soul. Casey Kasem, is he big in Canada?
Well, he's kind of dead, but yeah.
Well,
the voice of Shaggy and Robin. And
no, it's not that he was the voice of Shaggy. Casey Kasem was the top 40. Casey's top 40.
Yeah, he was a radio guy, but he was also the voice of Shaggy.
Which is what's actually important. To number 9, I'm Casey Kasem, counting down the hits. This, I just felt like I was sounding like the iRig. It's a portable preamp for your iPhone. I got this. Where did I get it? Guess. This is a callback. Radio Shack.
Oh my goodness.
I would never pay $12. I would never pay $50 for this thing. But if you can find an iRig, for $20 or so, lets you plug in any microphone, any XLR mic into your iPhone, and you could do kind of on the fly one channel recording. Just for what you need to do.
That H6 is not that small, but it's 4 preamp channels.
Valid point. My point being that if I've got my microphone in my bag, I can throw this in there, the iRig, or I can have my Zoom. Either way, I'm prepared. It just depends on how much time you have to get your show ready.
Sure.
And I really recommend this kind of stuff. It's very inexpensive, whether it be the Zoom for $300 or the iRig for less than $40. It makes the difference to do a YouTube channel or a podcast with just a little bit better gear.
Yeah, nicer mic, set right. Although, let's face it, we're both amateurs. It's Lawrence in the back office that makes this sound great.
It absolutely is. Lawrence Ryan, our editor, who is going to make basically all of the dumb things we said go away, and this 30-minute show will become 5 minutes.
There you go.
So,
there won't be much left.
Always a joy to talk to you, Richard Campbell. Thank you so much.
And for those who don't know, I mean, this is the conversation we were having while you were in the car before we recorded.
Well, this is the thing. So what will happen is I'll be driving around, picking my kids up or whatever, and I'll go, I miss my friend Richard Campbell. And then I will call you, and on the phone, this is a true story, I will call you, and I'll go, what country are you in, Richard?
And it could be anywhere.
Could be anywhere. And he'll be like, Istanbul. And I say, all right, I'll call you later. And that's, the end of conversation. Or it's like, oh, I'm in Canada, home of Canadians, where I live. Yes. And I'll say, Richard, let's do a show, because I so enjoy talking to you. And we used to have these conversations and not record them, which is the tragedy.
Yes. Yeah.
And the conversations go exactly like this, except for the announcement part. And the advertisements.
Yes.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Stream.
And the video stream, yes.
Yeah.
But I very much appreciate you. This is Hanselminutiae 15 and also Hansel Minutes. So thanks again. And now I'm going to do my radio voice. Ready for this?
Ready.
This has been another episode of Hansel Minutes. We'll see you again next week.